Hello folks, it's me again, Amanda Enderman, your trusty tour guide in the wonders of the wonderful city, also known as Rio de Janeiro. I think it always happens that historic bombshells explode on me. This video's theme was no exception. I was here minding my own business, writing the texts of the weekly historic gossips which have been popping up in the community tab. So this particular theme that I was writing has also to do with World War II, and stay tuned because it's gonna come out in the first Monday of May. But since it has to do with World War II, I was looking at some old magazines from the army that my grandpa used to receive and that I got from my mom, some of them that is. Namely, the one where I found the bomb was this one over here, but I have others. I was looking for more detail about the thing that I was writing about. However, I came across an article which states that the Brazilian Navy wasn't for the monarchy, it was for the Republic. In November 15th, 1889, when the Brazilian Republic was proclaimed. But before I get right on to the theme of the video, I have to remind you that I'm currently offering walking tours through the city of Rio, and all of them are described on my website, which link will be in the description box below, as well as in the first fixed comment. So all you have to do is click there, text me via WhatsApp, that's very important, make your reservations, and let's get to know the city of Rio in person, folks! With me, your trusty tour guide, Amanda Enderman, of course. Now, without further ado, let's get right on to the theme of the video. Some of you may not be aware of this bit of Brazilian history, even if you are following the videos in my channel, because you see, in the series about the history of Rio and also of Brazil, I guess you could say, I have only now begun with the reign of Dom Pedro II. I have yet to post the video, but I have already recorded it. So I'm still in the time when Brazil was an empire. It may come as a shock to some of you, but I don't know why is it that it's such a hard thing to get into the minds of especially foreigners. Brazil, after its independence, was an empire, an independent empire. It is possible. Look at England. And after that, in 1889, was when the Brazilian Republic was proclaimed. And I will get to the explanation of how exactly was the proclamation of the Republic and why I keep saying proclaimed instead of just proclaimed with quotation. But in this video, I'm gonna have to explain it a bit. Every standard history book will say that when the Republican movement was being put in place in Brazil, the army spearheaded the movement, and yes, that was true, but they also say that the Navy was against the proclamation of the Republic, therefore it was supporting the monarchy, it was supporting Dom Pedro II. And according to this article that I saw in the magazine that I just showed you, this was not true. It was fake news.
You are fake news.
The Navy was, in fact, Republican. In November 15th, 1889, a brigade of around 500 men began the movement by marching on the army barracks in the Praça da Aclamação. I have already mentioned this place in countless videos, and as I said before, time and time again, it is a place where a lot of things happened in the history of Brazil. What are we gonna do? And in this group of nearly 500 men were elements of the police and of the Navy, first of all. Second of all, what made the army dissatisfied with the imperial government was that after Brazil fought a war with Paraguay, and I also will talk about that in the series about the history of Rio and Brazil, but what you need to know for this video is that after the war, the empire didn't give as much financial support to the army as it gave to the Navy. So the Navy was
business as usual. We're getting our subsidies, our financial support,
while the army felt left out. So of course they were dissatisfied. But the thing is that the army during the Republican movement became simply neutral. They weren't for per se, nor were they against it. They just watched as it happened. But then the Republicans used the fact that they weren't against the Republic as an excuse to say,
oh, so they're for the Republic.
You didn't have to push it so far. And furthermore, in the victory parade, Deodoro da Fonseca addressed the Navy, thanking them for their support in the movement against the imperial institutions. So that's another clue. And also, the majority of the naval officials at the time were of the opinion that yes, the empire had done its part in the history of Brazil. It had contributed very much for the history of Brazil, but that it was worn out at this point. So there was need of change to a republican regime. On the night before the 15th, Benjamin Constant, which was one of the main figureheads in the Republican movement, went personally to the Naval Club here in Rio, where he met with several officials, including Admiral Vandenkolk and Captain of Sea and War. I don't know how to say that in English. If anyone does, please write it down in the comment section. Frederico Lorena, and both of them were radical Republicans, as you can see. Furthermore, in the afternoon of the 15th, a group of civilians led by José do Patrocínio gave the civilian show of support to the Republican movement. Up until then, it had been basically exclusively a military movement. These other series of speeches was to show that the civilians were also supporting the movement. And among those who gave speeches in the occasion, the most vehement was Professor Magalhães Castro, which was one of the many professors of the naval school who were ardently Republican. Once again, finally, another argument that the ones that say that the Navy was monarchist was the presence of the Admiral Saldanha da Gama, who was very much an important figure during the time of the empire. What they use as an excuse to say that the Navy was monarchist was that he said that if he had been here in Brazil in November 15th, everything would have happened differently. Because he said everything would have happened differently, they automatically assume, oh, so the Republic wouldn't have been proclaimed. False. One thing doesn't mean the other. All he said was that there should have been a vote where the people could have a say if they wanted to continue with the monarchy or if they actually wanted the Republican regime to be proclaimed. Fair enough, right? And as a matter of fact, we did have such a vote in the late 1980s or early 1990s or something like that. But some say that people were very much misinformed about what having a monarchy in Brazil would imply. They basically thought that it would be absolute monarchy, so of course they voted no, when in fact what was going to happen was going to be a constitutional monarchy, same as what is in England nowadays. Going back to Saldanha da Gama, the thing is that the way he positioned himself was more fueled by personal interests of his own than anything else. During the time of the empire, his greatest aspiration was to become, once again, I don't know military terms in English, Condestável do Mar. I believe is a very high-ranking position in the Navy. However, that was during the time of the empire. But with the proclamation of the Republic and the changing of the administration, well, such an aspiration was frustrated, so he changed sides. This concludes this video about this bombshell of an information that the Navy was actually supporting the Brazilian Republic. I hope you liked the video, and if you did like the video, be sure to click that like button, then right after that, click that subscribe button, and most important of all, share this video with as many people as you possibly can so that each time more people may know about the wonders of the wonderful city. And as usual in this channel, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!